consciousness. There have been studies done. They have an aquarium of fish, and they put a glass separate divider in the middle, and so the fish swimming on one side and fish swimming on the other side, and they cannot pass this aquarium because of this glass. And so they're restricted to this side. And what psychologists have found is when they remove that glass divider after a certain amount of time, these fishes have been pre-programmed to not cross the divider. So they would approach that halfway point of the aquarium and just turn back. You know what I'm saying? When there isn't a divider. And these studies have been done with rats too. The rat misbehaves, it's given a shock. The next time it knows not to do that certain action because it has the memory at the back of its head that, hey, if I were to do that move again, he's going to buzz me. I'm going to get the shock. And so they live their lives with this pre-programmed understanding of how things work. So
were you kind of rebellious in your youth?
Rebellious, maybe.
So I'm just trying to understand, how is it that you were able to do all of this, unlike a normal person?
Well, I think it begins when you have an experience yourself. Most people, I have noticed, they tend to brush these experiences away. I think we all have these experiences. There have been times when you get a phone call and you rush to the phone and you almost know who it is on the other end. You pick up and yes, it is, and then we just brush it up. Coincidence, Coincidences in itself are interesting. What is a coincidence? These days we brush things off as coincidences, but if you look at the term coincidence refers to two angles within a triangle which coincide. Coincide meaning they're exactly the same. And when things are exactly the same, they're synchronistic in a sense. That means they're meant to fit each other. Two exact angles fit each other perfectly. So the term coincidence itself, it's not a coincidence. There is a reason behind everything that happens. And once you try to understand this reasoning, so I would ponder, when I had those experiences with phones, with psychics, and I would not brush it off. I would ask myself, how is the psychic doing it, So once I had a psychic sit across from me and just guess a number out of my head, and now I couldn't let her go. I was intrigued, and I had to go to libraries. I had to misspend childhood trying to understand the techniques that she was using, and perhaps if I could employ these myself. Yeah, but I think we're often carried away by these techniques when these techniques are actually not important. It's good, but there's a lot more to understand. Like once you actually get into this, you realize that reading someone's mind is something. It's fun, but once you get this increased understanding, there's a lot more to it. You see the world in a different light, and that's the beauty of it. Not so much the materialistic gains or benefits that people might want to learn something for that reason. No. Yeah.
So I guess you would be a great negotiator if you actually went into a conflict zone and sat down. You'll know what he's trying to think, and then you can come up with a defense to it.
Yeah, increased negotiation. That can be done with increased awareness. If you look at global warming, for example, many years ago, these past few years, it's been increased. Everyone's conscious now. Recycling, and I think if you look at the past few years, Al Gore's film, for example, that film changed quite a lot of people's perception of global warming and environmentalism. Because what happens is now suppose you have a population of 1 million people. You have 20,000 people interested in global warming, 40, 60, 80, 100, 500,000 people interested, 600,000. There's a tipping point at which when there's a majority of the population with their mindset on a certain thing, you can change the outcome. Let me give you the analogy of a butterfly. You see a caterpillar, when a caterpillar is born, a caterpillar is not something like a butterfly, it lives on plants, it lives on leaves, and this caterpillar just keeps on eating leaves, and at some point it undergoes a process. It undergoes a process known as metamorphosis, where this caterpillar breaks out from its tight skin. It breaks free. It breaks into from this ugly caterpillar, it breaks into this beautiful looking butterfly, which now can soar in the skies. And what is the story here? It's undergone a metamorphosis. It's undergone a change. And this change can be done on a human level awareness too. So if we can just through increasing awareness, we can get a certain amount of people getting on a certain, I mean, experiments have been done on this, where you have patients in a hospital and they would increase the awareness of it, so they get maybe 200,000 people thinking of a certain thought to try and help this patient or something, and you would notice, there have been studies where you'd notice these changes in the patient's physiology, just by the level of thought process. Yeah.
What's the average? What's the basic difference between the way I think and the way you think? Am I consumed by materialism? Am I consumed by what the other person is going to think about me? Or
no, not so much materialism in that sense. It's this false mirage that doesn't. So most people, they will be consumed by this idea with black versus white, poor versus rich. Once you remove these factors, once you see the world differently, you tend to remove these dividers. And once you see everyone as one, a unity awareness, unity consciousness, and you don't see the difference between me, you, me, black, me, white, there is no dividers. And then you see that there's you in everyone. I can see you in me, you can see you in me, and that is all there is, you know. And then these presumptions no longer work, you know, because once you see you in yourself, you cannot defeat yourself because you are yourself.
True.
And it works from there. Yeah.
All right, we're almost running out of time. Can we? Is there another little trick that you want to show us?
Well, let's try something. Maybe with let's try something with your water, for example. If you could just maybe put your hand on your water, maybe just like this. I'll just keep it right here.
Okay.
And you can just place your hand over it. Keep your elbows locked out. Locked straight. Is it locked straight? And just bring it down on the glass and just hold it tight. Hold it as tight as you can. Keep your hand pretty straight.
Like that?
Yeah. I'm just going to place this. Keep it straight like that. Yeah. Okay. Try lifting that up. It should be fairly light. Yeah, not too heavy, right? Keep it up. And I'm going to place this crystal here. And we all know crystals, of course, they have certain vibrational energies. And at the molecular level, we're all made up of molecules of self. So sometimes the vibrations of these crystals can affect the vibrations of ourselves that we give out. And sometimes they can be an interference, and that's where you have some people who cannot wear watches, for example, or they get affected by electric impulses. And so here's the idea: if you can actually just stare into that crystal for a while and just zoom out of everything that's actually happening in this room, just concentrate all of your mind on the crystal, you start to notice that the more you actually stare into the crystal, it begins to almost glow a little bit. And you feel that crystal, you feel it against your skin, don't you, right around it? You feel the contours of it touching against your skin. And as you become aware of that crystal sitting on your skin, you become aware of how heavy that crystal actually begins to feel. And it's just bearing down on your hand, and your hand begins to feel heavier and heavier and heavier. And this heaviness almost transfers itself down to this part of your arm and this part of your arm, making your arm feel almost very, very uncomfortable, increasingly uncomfortable. And the more you try to not think about the crystal, the more this crystal affects you. And the more you stare into the crystal, it just zaps all of that energy out of you. And at this point, your arm begins to feel quite heavy. And if you try lifting your arm at this point, you find it ridiculously heavy. You feel that heaviness, it almost prevents you from lifting the glass. Have you feel that? And if I remove that, try just going. You just feel that? It just feels much more lighter.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And all that changed was a process in your mind. Your mind had become fixed on the idea that the crystal was imposing its weight on it. And that prevented you from breaking free, that you're actually free. I mean, lift up the crystal. It doesn't weigh anything.
Sure.
But what weighed was your mind. Your mind was telling your body, and that mind-body connection that we have, that I cannot lift the glass up now because my arm begins to feel heavier and heavier and heavier. And that's what I'm getting at. If you can break free from that idea that I can see what's happening and I can totally focus on that, then you can do anything you want.
So I guess we break free from all our negative thoughts and just
focus in on manifesting our desires, because all problems at the deeper level arise from people being unable to manifest their desires. So if you have a job that you're trying to promotion and that you cannot get the promotion, that thought just keeps going in your head and it affects you. Over time it affects you. And it's like a spider web just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and sometimes it just engulfs you. So the idea is...
So if I were to think, I'm going to be a millionaire and nothing's going to stop me from being a millionaire.
Well, the idea is to have these goals that are actually feasible. So and then you work towards those goals. So you don't have a millionaire kind of rebuttal.
Okay, very quickly, Do you have any words for the young people who are watching this show? How can they do better with their lives by using your techniques?
Like I said earlier in the earlier part of the show, increase your level of consciousness, investigate everything. So I mean, if you see a lightning in the sky, ask yourself, why does it flash? Why? Ask yourself everything. Always question anything. Question authority. Question anything that you feel needs to be questioned.
Mm-hmm.
And there's more information on my website too. Maybe you have it on the screen, or it's www.jasveen.ca. It's JASVEEN.ca.
Jasveen Puri, it's been a pleasure, and I was shaking coming in, but you made it very easy.
Yeah.
I'm still spooked by the fact that you figured out my dream.